ladies and gentlemen. Today, I wish to speak not of a common sadness, nor of a generalized anxiety, but of a specific and dangerous pathology that can take root in the human psyche, both individually and collectively. I speak of the mental state of a group that has convinced itself it exists above the law, a cohort that not only engages in evil practices, but has constructed an entire internal world to justify them. We have seen their shadows throughout history, in the halls of tyrannical regimes, in the boardrooms of corporations that poison rivers and call it profit, in the secret societies that trade in exploitation, and in the street gangs that rule by terror. Their actions are visible, the corruption, the cruelty, the systemic harm. But we must look deeper, past the deeds, into the mindset that makes those deeds possible. For understanding this psychology is our first and most vital line of defense. What is the mental architecture of such a group? First, it is built on a foundation of grandiose delusion. This is more than arrogance. This is a profound, unshakable belief in their own exceptionalism. They see themselves not as subject to the rules that govern ordinary people, but as the makers of rules, or rather as beings for whom rules are mere tools, applicable only to others. They believe their intelligence, their bloodline, their ideology, or their divine right places them on a different plane of existence. The law is for the little people, for the herd. They are the shepherds, the wolves, the gods, anything but fellow citizens. This grandiosity is the bedrock upon which all other justifications are built. Second, upon this foundation, they construct a fortress of moral disengagement. The pioneering psychologist Albert Bandura identified the mental mechanisms by which people shut down their own conscience. This group excels at them all. Euphemistic labeling. Evil practices are never called what they are. They are asset reallocation, aggressive persuasion, collateral adjustment, necessary sacrifice. Language is sanitized to bleach the blood from their hands. Advantageous comparison. What we do is nothing compared to what they have done. They point to historical monsters or rival groups, not to claim moral high ground, but to create a sliding scale where their actions appear reasonable. Displacement of responsibility. The orders came from above. The market demanded it. It was for the greater good of the organization. The individual conscience vanishes into the collective directive, the humanization of the victim. This is the most critical step. The targets of their practices are stripped of their humanity. They are assets, problems, obstacles, enemies of the cause, inferior stock. You cannot feel guilt for harming an object. You cannot betray a principle you do not believe applies to a subclass of human. Third, within this fortress, they cultivate a climate of total loyalty and secrecy, which breeds profound paranoia. The group becomes a closed ecosystem. Is treason. Questioning is weakness. The outside world is not just wrong, it is actively hostile, jealous, and plotting their downfall. This paranoia binds them tighter. They must watch each other for signs of doubt, while constantly scanning the horizon for threats. This creates a state of perpetual, high-alert stress, but it is a stress they interpret as proof of their elite, besieged status. The fear of exposure becomes the glue that holds them together. What does this do to the individual mind within the group? It creates a profound cognitive dissonance. Deep down in the silent core of the self, the knowledge of their actions clashes with the innate human understanding of right and wrong. To resolve this unbearable tension, the mind has two choices: break away or double down. The group's machinery is designed to ensure members double down. They are rewarded for conformity, promoted for ruthlessness, and showered with the material spoils of their practices. The dissonance is quieted not by righteousness, but by further immersion in the group's ideology and by the addictive rush of unchecked power. But let us be clear, this is not a state of health. It is a state of profound sickness. It is a moral psychosis. They have lost contact with the fundamental reality of human reciprocity, the golden rule that is the bedrock of all law and ethics. They live in a narcissistic fantasy where they are both the hero and the victim of their own story. The guilt they suppress does not vanish, it metastasizes. It turns into a corrosive contempt for those who still believe in goodness, whom they see as naive fools. It manifests as a hollow, joyless pursuit of more power, more conquest, as if the next acquisition will finally fill the void where their conscience used to be. So, what is our role? As members of a society they believe they rule and a humanity they believe they transcend. Our first task is to refuse their narrative. We must never accept their euphemisms. We must call a crime a crime. We must call cruelty cruelty. We must relentlessly reaffirm the reality they deny. That no one is above the law, because the law is not just a set of rules, but the codified promise of our shared humanity. It is the baseline agreement that protects the weak from the strong. Our second task is to dismantle their fortress of isolation. We must shine the relentless light of transparency on their practices. We must support and protect the whistleblowers, the journalists, the investigators who dare to pierce their secrecy. Every exposed email, every recorded confession, every leaked document is a crack in their wall of moral disengagement, letting in the fresh air of public judgment. Our third, and perhaps most difficult task, is to remember the possibility of the turned soul. While justice must be unwavering, our understanding must leave room that people can be trapped within this mindset. Our goal is not just to punish the group, but to dissolve its psychological hold. This requires a credible path out, not of excuse, but of accountability and reintegration into the community of the governed. The most powerful message we can send is, your fantasy of superiority is just that, a fantasy. You are a human being subject to the same laws as the rest of us, and capable of the same redemption. In conclusion, the group that believes is above the law is not powerful because of its mental state. It is pitiable because of it. It has traded empathy for empire, conscience for control, and humanity for a hollow crown. They live in a gilded cage of their own making, terrified of the very freedom and equality they despise.